After an enjoyable moment, Han sighed with the feeling of the hot bath calming his mind and body. On either side of him, Helania and Queen were resting their heads on his shoulders. Resting against his chest, Brittany's sighs were heard as she cupped the warm bath water and sprinkled it on her breasts. Sitting and enjoying the water, Helania asked, "Master, what will we be doing after leaving here?" "I am trying to decide between following this family back to their town, but I am also curious about the capital in this kingdom. Based on what I've seen in this inn, I am curious about what other tools they have created with the help of magic. The level of magic development would also be interesting to find out." He told them, maybe after visiting the capital and seeing how the kingdom was like, he would visit the other areas too. "Master, there seems to be some activity going on. I sense a large number of humans heading towards this village," Andrea reported to him. Being his chauffeur, she usually stayed at the carriage to be ready to take him anywhere. "Queen, I want you to send out your shadow assassins to investigate what this group of humans is all about," he commanded her as he got out of the bath. "Yes, Master," Queen answered. "Brittany, is my outfit ready yet?" he asked her. Looking far away, Brittany said, "Yes, Master. All of our outfits have been completed and are waiting for us." Nodding his head in approval, he told Brittany, "Bring the outfits I requested from you and the three of you. I think this may be a good time to look flashy." After Brittany had arrived with the outfits, he looked at what it looked like. The pants were black with dark blue highlights, the shirts were comfortable and refreshing white long-sleeved shirt, and the jacket was an overcoat that was dark blue with black and purple coloring. On the back of the overcoat was a design of wings. It was a cool, comfortable, and dapper-looking outfit. Putting on the outfit, he made adjustments to it so that it felt like a second skin, not restricting him. Brittany had a display rack for the three of them, and each of them began to try out the outfits. Each of them had a similar design to his own, making them look like uniforms. He liked the similarities, thinking of a video game that took place in a school environment where the students fought monsters and sorceresses. Alania's outfit opened up to allow a nice view of her breast and tapered around her waist. Queen's outfit had a vest that covered her chest, looking like two triangles where the points clasped together. Even her overcoat helped to show skin, exposing her shoulders. Unlike him, she didn't have a shirt, so her stomach could be seen. The pants were made out of leather and were tight on her legs. Brittany's outfit was a mashup of the two, while she had a similar-looking vest which accentuated her breasts. She had also a sheer shirt. The fact that you couldn't directly see her body made it look very sensual. Staring at them, Han said, "You three look beautiful." They blushed, hearing him compliment them. Han remembered what Andrea said when he headed out of the bathing area. Stopping by the room Alice was staying in, he knocked on the door and waited for Alice to open it. Alice looked to be worried and asked, "There seems to be a lot of people running around outside. Are we going to be safe? I heard a bell being rung, and now the village is in an uproar." "Don't worry about that. I'll go out to look and see what is going on, so just stay in here. I will leave behind Cindy and Mindy, and they will look after you. They can get in contact with me if something were to happen," he reassured her. "My lord, you can't be constrained to go out there," she exclaimed, looking troubled and worried. "There is no need to be concerned about my safety." Looking at Cindy and Mindy, Han said, "Why don't one of you bring Alice a soothing tea to help her calm down? Also, why don't we bring the dresses that were prepared for Alice, so she could look at them and see if they fit her taste?" As Han and the girls continued walking, Cindy and Mindy gently guided Alice back into her room. He could hear them soothing her and comforting her that everything was going to be fine. When he reached the lobby, the woman at the counter looked distressed. She saw him coming down the stairs and ran over to him. My lord, We need to leave this village. Lunar Empire soldiers are approaching. The village has been preparing to evacuate those who can. Thank you for your consideration. He smiled at her and proceeded to leave the inn. The woman looked at him, looking confused as to why he didn't look worried and was able to remain so composed. Upon leaving the inn, Andrea already had the carriage waiting for him. With her ability, she was able to keep track of his location and understood that he wished to see the incoming forces. Brittany opened up the door for him to enter, and after everyone was inside, he could sense the carriage making its way towards the invaders. Inside the carriage, Han told the girls, "I am planning on stopping these forces, to make myself look better in the eyes of the kingdom. Helania, I want you to create a barrier to stop any Empire forces from entering the village." Seeing her nod her head, he proceeded to look at Queen. "Queen, I want you to create minions to march against the invaders. The flashier the better. I want the entire kingdom to talk about this, so a big impact is best." Seeing her grin, he then looked at Brittany. "Prepare me a roasted ham and some vegetables to enjoy while I watch my beautiful creations fight off these dreadful soldiers. I think some wine would pair nicely with the ham, and would be appropriate. Master, we are here in front of the village. Is there anything you will require from me?" "Just stay by the carriage and enjoy the show," he commanded her. Exiting the carriage, he looked at the sun and thought it was a nice sunset. Walking away from the carriage, he created a throne on top of the step pyramid, so he could better view the slaughter. Reaching the top of the steps, he proceeded to have a seat and watch Queen get ready. Helania stood by his right side, while Brittany was on his left. Brittany had a nice carving station set up, with a delicious-looking roasted ham waiting to be carved up. "Master, I have set up the barrier," Helania informed him. Han observed Queen walking a couple of 100 feet away from him before stopping. He could feel the power that she was drawing towards herself and saw the ground spew out a black fog. It reminded him of a horror movie where a thick fog came and swallowed up a small town. The fog started close to where Queen was standing and then began to expand around her. Reaching the base of the step pyramid, the fog rose several steps up this pyramid due to the force behind it. With a radius of over 200 feet, the fog did look very imposing and ominous. Han clapped his hand in praise of Queen's performance. Brittany brought over his dish and began to serve the food. "Ho ho ho ho! Magnificent! This is a beautiful day. I can observe the exceptional performance of Queen while being able to eat excellent food with the help of Brittany. Truly, I am blessed to have such beautiful creations." He cheered. "Your enjoyment is our pleasure, Master," Helania said to him, looking happy that he was enjoying him so much. Taking her hand, Han gave it a kiss, saying, "All of you do such a good job of taking care of me and satisfying my whims." "Master, how could we not go to such lengths for you?" Brittany said, kissing him on his head. In front of them, the fog began to disperse and leave behind an army of knights, wearing pitch-black armor and riding skeleton horses. They looked dreadful and could be described as the incarnation of terror. Han looked amazed at this force and said, "Analyze." A screen appeared with the title, "Knights of the Order of Death." In the description, it read, "Long ago, the Knights of the Order of Death were tasked with serving the Great Lord of Death. Their duties were to fight against demonic forces to protect those who were powerless. Due to fears that they were siding with organizations that would experiment on monsters and demons, the knights serving in the Order of Death were hunted down and wiped from history." He wondered, after reading the description, whether the system created this backstory or if it always existed in this world. It'd be nice to do a little bit of research on this topic, but considering that most of the records of this order were destroyed based on the backstory, Han didn't believe he would find much. After this battle, Han thought about asking Queen where she gained these forces. There appeared to be close to 500 knights in front of him, in orderly-looking formations. Queen made some motions with her arms, and the knights began to form themselves to properly face the Empire's troops. Master, it appears that the Empire's forces have arrived, Melania announced. Looking towards the horizon, Han saw a large force of soldiers. The army that approached them didn't appear to be a simple grouping of troops, and instead looked like a proper invasion force. I wonder if those soldiers we faced earlier were part of a scouting party, he wondered out loud. That appears to be the case, Master, Melania agreed. The invading force stopped when they noticed the force Queen had summoned. Han opened up a viewing screen and made it possible for him to listen to what his aunt had to say. Viewing this individual, Han could tell that the aunt was a very arrogant person, most likely a noble. His armor was incredibly shiny and looked unused, and the horse he sat upon probably came from a quality breed. I am Viscount Denon Linehouse III, and we belong to the forces of the Great Lunar Empire. This land now belongs to the Empire, and any resistance will be met with unrestrained force. With your meager force, you have no hope of succeeding, and so I suggest you lay down your weapons. Though you may look imposing riding on those horses, they mean nothing in front of our platoon of mages. We shall obliterate your forces if you are foolish enough to oppose us. To show that the Empire is merciful, we will give you 5 minutes to decide. Surrender, and your lives will be spared. But if you refuse our mercy, you will be captured and enslaved. Viscount Denon Linehouse spoke in a condescending tone. Laughing at the foolish behavior, Han said, I think it is amazing that such a foolish man can exist and stand in front of such a terrifying force. The Lunar Empire must be a powerful nation to be able to act with such arrogance. Yes, Master. These humans should be grateful that we give them a fighting chance, instead of just clearing them from the field, Melania agreed, covering her mouth with the back of her hand as she laughed. Switching the view to project Queen's face, Han heard her respond with, Do not worry about providing us with time to consider. In front of my master, I, Queen of Death, will allow you to become his stepping stone and entertainment. I hope you do not have feelings of regret, considering you are no match for him, who stands above all. You slut! How dare you speak to me, a noble of the great empire? I will make sure to kill all of your comrades and take you as my prisoner for me to use. A woman like you will regret ever being born, Viscount Denon Linehouse shouted at Queen, his face becoming red with anger. The Viscount then motioned for his troops to attack. From the rear, multiple spells were being shot out towards Queen's forces. Seeing all these spells, the Viscount looked confident of his victory. With a precise motion of machines, the knights all raised their shields. Several of the knights moved into position and used their shield to cover Queen. As the spells landed, a massive explosion was seen. Flames raged all across Queen's forces and made the field look like an inferno. The fires continued to burn for several moments before the spells were exhausted of mana. As the flame died down, the Viscount spoke out loud, A pity that woman died. I was looking forward to seeing how great her skills were, as I trained her to be a loyal dog. His expression changed from glee to horror as the Viscount saw that the opposing forces were undamaged. It was as if they weren't attacked by several massive fire spells. Even though I was confident that nothing would happen, I admit to feeling glad that Queen is unharmed. Han spoke. Though he had great power, he never felt truly confident that he covered all of his bases, especially when dealing with foreign magic. For all he knew, the magic of this world was fundamentally different and would bypass all defensive magic he created. Master, fear not. Nothing will allow us to shame your faith in us. We will demonstrate that the love you give to us is not misplaced. Polania spoke with confidence. After the flames fully dispersed, Queen signaled the knights to attack. Looking like some bull, the knight formations on the side rode out and attacked the Empire forces from the side. Those near Queen rushed towards the invading forces after the other groups were in position. The Empire forces were quick to respond to the changing circumstances, where the sides of the Viscount's soldiers faced the imminent threat. Having a force 5 times larger than the knights, the soldiers maintained morale and acted with precision. Pikemen were moved to the front, turning the other and frontal portions into a pincushion. Anyone riding a horse would have their mounts pierced by many pikes. This was the correct response when dealing with mounted forces. As the horses neared the pikes, each soldier placed a foot on the bottom to secure them to receive the impact. Han watched the battle unfold in front of him. Instead of looking concerned, he looked amused. The knight struck the row of pikes, and instead of stopping, they continued into the formation. Listening to the screams of soldiers being trampled, Han opened his mouth to take in another morsel of ham. Tasting the smoky flavor of the meat in his mouth, he moaned in enjoyment. If one were to view this exchange, they would think that this battle only served to complement the meal Han was enjoying. Occasionally Han would raise his glass and toast Queen, for allowing him to see something magnificent. After trampling many of the soldiers, the knights began slashing those beneath them. Instead of going deep into the formation, the knights veered slightly so that they would be able to get out into the open field. They charged away, and after going several hundred feet, they turned around and charged back into the fray. By performing in this manner, they were better able to leverage the weight of their mount in armor. Each time they did this, more soldiers were trampled underneath the horses. As the Empire's forces were diminishing, Queen raised her arm and summoned several beings that held bows. Once these creatures were summoned, she had them organized into rows and ordered them to fire into the formation. The pattern of being trampled and then having arrows raining down upon them finally broke the spirit of the soldiers. Some of them began running away as they screamed for mercy. Han could hear the Viscount yelling at his men to return to their position, while also looking like he wanted to run with them. Considering how incompetent the Viscount looked, Han imagined that he didn't find the idea of fighting to his last breath appealing. Though some of the soldiers were able to run away, many of their comrades were slaughtered. In the end, the only person remaining was the Viscount, who was kneeling on the ground while covering his head. Queen approached the Viscount and had 2 of the knights get off their horses and drag him back to where Han was sitting. When the Viscount was in front of Han, he looked at the noble and said, "My lord, as a noble you need to have at least some dignity. Such an ugly face, covered in your tears and snot, is not something that holds the nobility in a better light. Please, my lord, my family has wealth, and I know they would be willing to provide a ransom amount for my safe return," the Viscount pleaded. Such an arrogant and pompous man was now being held up as he cried and whined. Though this may be true, the family being willing to pay for ransom, I do not have any need for wealth, but... Han purposely trailed off. "I don't want to appear to be an unmerciful being, so I will release you to go back to your home." He smiled magnanimously. Looking up quickly, the Viscount tried to see if Han was lying to him. When he saw that Han was serious, he said, "My lord, thank you. I will never forget such kindness." With a motion of his hand, the knight released the Viscount, who fell to the ground and groaned. Han saw a glint of anger, but this was quickly hidden and replaced with false appreciation. Seeing the noble not fail to meet his expectations, Han grinned.